Welcome to Console Crapshoot, where we spin a wheel to play a random video game on original hardware. Carl has been really racy in his choices lately. I'm hoping for a lot less adult content moving forward. Let's just see some good games. Alright, the Sega Genesis. That's a good start. I don't think there's any random adult content on the Sega Genesis. But who knows? We've got 702 games on this wheel. WWF Royal Rumble. Alright, that could be a lot worse. Can't go wrong with some silly early 90s wrestling. My cousin Philippe is visiting me again this week, so he's gonna help me play this one, get some two-player action going. And yeah, we're getting an early look at this roster. It looks like all the important ones are here from this era. Just about. Let's take a closer look. You gotta have Randy Savage. Randy Savage might be my favorite wrestler of this era. Just an insane dude. How do you even come up with a character like that talks like that? Bret Hart, mainstay, classic. Hulk Hogan is a person. The Undertaker, dude is still wrestling. I mean, he retired, but he still shows up. Amazing. Oh yeah, Crushed. I barely remember this guy. He was just like a big Hawaiian dude. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, also right up there with Randy Savage as far as completely but subtly insane. The Narcissus, well, that was Lex Luger, but they had to change his name when he came over to the WWF. By the way, WWE used to be called WWF, in case you don't know. Shawn Michaels, another one that still appears. Loved that guy when I was younger. The Model, barely remember this guy. Very forgettable character. Papa Shango, voodoo guy, that's cool. He was great, kind of racist. Speaking of racist, Razor Ramon, awesome. IRS I remember very well. This was a guy, I mean, back in the day, wrestlers, a lot of times, for their gimmick, it would be like people with jobs. You had a guy who was a repo man, and then you had one that was like a Canadian Mountie, and then IRS as part of their personality. It was fairly amazing. Alright, I'll just say it now. Wrestling games, with a few exceptions, were not that great in this era. There weren't really great wrestling games that grabbed me, at least, that got me really into wrestling games until like the N64 came along. Nintendo 64 was an awesome console for wrestling games, and then the PS2 as well. PlayStation 2, great stuff. But before that, it was very hit or miss, mostly miss. Matt Mania is the one that I love. And I can already tell that this is another miss. It's whatever. It's pretty boring. There should be some music going on here, and the crowd noise. Listen to the crowd noise. It just sounds like snow, like static on an old TV. That gets to you after a couple minutes. So, spotty sound design, and the graphics are pretty mediocre. Nothing too exciting, the controls are limited and sort of unresponsive. You can beat the shit out of the referee, so bonus points. But everyone's the same basic size, I think it looks like. We got pretty bored with the one-on-one matches fairly quickly. Let's go on to some tag team stuff. For this, we decided to be on the same team, try something different. But again, it's just more of the same. The last hope for this game, I guess, is to try out the namesake, what it was named for, the Royal Rumble mode. We were hoping that might be a little more exciting, and it was a little tiny bit more exciting. You've got 6 wrestlers in the ring at once, but when you have a game that's already kind of controlling bad and the controls are sort of non-responsive, having 5 players up against you instead of 1 is all the more frustrating. You're trying to follow your character. Sure, they look a little different, but they have exactly the same kind of body build. And yeah, like I said, it's just more aggravation. Unless I'm missing something, there really is nothing to this game. It's very bare bones. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels weak. Not exciting in the slightest. So I've got not much else to say. I guess we should just skip right to the verdict. What did we think of WWF Royal Rumble for the Sega Genesis? Like, with this game, there's so little to it that there's nothing to talk about here. I'm struggling to find an angle. It's just bland. Whether you like wrestling or not, you can't deny that these wrestlers, if they had anything, was tons of personality. There's like an electric energy with wrestling, and that's what draws people in, especially when they're young. I loved this stuff when I was a kid, and this game is basically the polar opposite of electric energy. It's just dull graphics over guys going over the sound of snowy static. Doesn't draw you in, doesn't excite you, there's nothing special about it. I would imagine the joy that you get from this game is as a kid, and you're using your imagination to make this more fun. You're yelling and acting stuff out with your friend. But when you get older, all you see is the faults. We have played much worse games on this show, but this was a rough one to make an episode about. This game is a very clear 2 out of 5. I like me a good wrestling game, but this ain't it. Hopefully one day we can land on one of those N64 or PS2 classics. I think we'll have a lot of fun with that. Alright, so did you have this game? Do you have anything to say about it? Can you make it exciting for me? That's the challenge here. I fucking doubt it, but at least I didn't have to blur anything this week. Maybe next week at this rate. We'll see. I hope you'll join me then to find out, and we'll see you then.